Today, I'm going to show you how to maximize the value of your Pokemon card collection. We're going to be looking at the best cards to grade with PSA and CGC. These cards will have the highest value multiplier I can find. So if you're looking to give your collection a nice little boost in value, you're going to want to watch this video all the way until the end. Alright, so we're going to get started here with the Gyarados EX Terrestrialize Ultra Rare in English or the Secret Rare in Japanese. Currently you can get the English one for around $20, the Japanese one's roughly around the same. Both of these cards currently have a really good value multiplier, and what that means is that the card cost itself will multiply significantly if you grade it and get a PSA 10 or a CGC 10, a perfect 10, something like that. Typically, if there is a Japanese counterpart, if the values are similar, I will recommend going with the Japanese card just because Japanese cards are typically a little bit easier to grade. So currently it looks like the Japanese version of this card is going for over $60 in a PSA 10. With PSA and CGC both grading the cards for around $15 right now, the quality control that we've seen on this card in particular in Japanese has been very good, so it's quite easy to get a PSA 10 on this particular card. You just want to make sure it's got some good centering and no sort of weird factory errors on the card. Now let's take a look at CGC. And this may actually surprise you, but some CGC cards are actually going for more than PSA 10. In this case here, it does actually seem to be that way. Currently this card is going anywhere from around $80 to $100 in a CGC, just a pristine 10. If you really know what you're looking for and you send it in and get a perfect 10, you actually might even get a double or triple multiplier on top of that pristine 10 price. We actually will have a video in the near future where we're going to show you exactly what to look for when sending your cards into PSA or CGC. Alright, now we're going to hop on over to Brilliant Stars. We're going to take a look at a couple of Charizard cards. Real quick, we're going to be giving away a set of Paldean starter art rares. All you have to do to enter this giveaway is like this video, subscribe to our channel with notifications on, and comment down below your favorite Paldean starter. Alright, back to the video. First up here, we've got the Charizard V Full Art, which currently you can get for around $25 to $30 in English. Typically, when it comes to English cards, I'd prefer to send them to PSA just because it's a little bit easier to get that 10. So this one right out of the gate has a really good multiplier with PSA. So if you pick this card up for around $25 and send it off to PSA for $15, you're in it for around $40, and currently this one is selling for over $100. This time, the Japanese counterpart doesn't have quite as good as a multiplier as the English version. So for this particular card, I actually recommend going with the English version and sending it to PSA. Alright, for this next one, we're specifically going to be looking at the Japanese version of the Raltz Art Rare. As you can see here, it's going for around 480 yen in Japan, which is going to be around $3 to $5 in the US if you're able to get it on eBay or locally. The reason this card is such a good card to grade right now is because the English counterpart is actually going for around $20. So here it is, the English version of this Raltz illustration rare is actually going for around $20, which is wild. And of course, with the quality control of the English set, the Japanese card is actually going to be easier to grade as well. So we're going to look at some PSA comps and CGC comps for this particular card. So already we can see the PSA 10 version of this card is going for $50 to $60. And again, the Japanese version is going to be easy to grade, so this actually has a good chance to get a 10 if you're looking just for some good centering and make sure it doesn't have any factory errors. So if you really know what you're looking for and send this thing to CGC, a 10 is also going for around $50 to $60, but if you do get that perfect 10, you're going to look at another doubled or triple multiplier on the card. There's not as many CGC listings out there, so for this card, you can really send it to PSA or CGC as long as you know what you're looking for. Alright, so this next card is going to be a little tricky because the quality control in Scarlet and Violet is so hit and miss, but we are actually going to look at the Miriam Secret Illustration Rare. The reason we're going to look at this card is because the multiplier is absolutely absurd right now, but I believe that's going to be because there are so few 10s out there because of the quality control. So this one does have a little bit of a caveat, and you do need to see this card in person and make sure that is a very, very clean copy of this card. So we're going to take a look at some eBay comps of recent PSA 10s. So as you can see here, if you are lucky enough to get a PSA 10 on this card, you're looking at a $400 to $600 card. The card raw goes for around $70 to $80, so this is a gigantic multiplier. Another reason this card is still so expensive is because the Japanese version of this card is very, very expensive. The Japanese version is going from anywhere from $800 to $1,000 in a PSA 10, which is actually not as good as a multiplier as the English version. For this one, I would probably stick with PSA just because it's going to be a very tough card to grade. Alright, the next one on the list is going to be the Pikachu Scarlet and Violet Japanese promo that you got with the video game. We're actually going to get this card in Paldea Evolved in the Elite Trainer box, but that one is not going to have the Scarlet and Violet stamps that this one does in Japanese. Currently, you can get this card for around $18 on eBay, but if you're looking to buy a few copies of this card to try to get a good grade, definitely reach out to a seller on eBay and see if they're willing to give you a discount. So the nice thing about this card is that if you do buy it sealed, you actually have a really good chance of getting a 10 with CGC or PSA. This card is typically a pretty easy card to grade. For this one, I actually recommend going with CGC, and I'm going to tell you why. Currently, the 10s are going for around $50, which is similar to PSA, but with CGC, you do have that chance to get a perfect 10. And currently, perfect 10s are going anywhere from $250 to $300, and it's actually not as hard as you may think to get a perfect 10 with CGC. So check this out. I'm scrolling through actually one of our recent CGC submissions where we sent in 168 cards, and we actually got almost half of them back as perfect 10s. And here's the actual population report from CGC on this Pikachu card. So there's actually 171 perfect 10s versus 682 pristine 10s. That's actually a really high ratio, so your odds of getting a perfect 10 are actually not that bad. And just a real quick thing I wanted to point out, look at the turnaround time for CGC currently. If you look right below me here, this submission was received on 4/4 and they shipped it out 2 days later. So props to CGC for their quick turnaround time. Oh, and this was a bulk submission. Alright, so similar to the Pikachu promo, we're actually going to go with the Arceus Legends promo. This one in Japanese has that stamp as well, where the English counterpart does not. This one I think is one of the better looking stamps from a Japanese promo, and you got it exclusively from buying the game in Japan. So this brings up another cool point. If you're looking to buy a lot of Japanese singles from eBay, definitely reach out to a seller if they have multiple cards that you're interested in. This one in particular, I can buy in bulk for around $6 or $7 just because I can buy a lot of these at a time. A lot of these sellers in Japan on eBay selling cards like this may actually own a card store themselves, and it saves them a lot of money sending all these cards to one person versus individually. For example, it may cost them $2 or $3 to ship this card to one person, so if you're buying 10 of these at a time, they may even drop it down like $6 or $7. You never know. Definitely give it a shot. So again, this is a really easy card to grade because you can buy these things sealed, open them up yourself, and send them in to get graded. The PSA 10 is currently going for around $50, and if you're able to buy the card for around $6 or $7 plus the $15 to grade it, being able to flip this card into a $50 card all day long is a really good multiplier. Plus, I think over time, this card will actually do really well because Japanese promos with stamps like this tend to do really well over time. Alright, so next on the list is going to be another English card from Celebrations. We're going to go with the Blastoise and honestly the Venusaur as well. These cards definitely do grade better with PSA. They are English and they kind of have some oddities about them. The textures sometimes can be a little bit tricky with other grading companies like CGC, so I'm definitely going to recommend going with PSA for this one. Let's look at some eBay comps. So to buy this card for around $7, if you send this one to PSA and get a 10 on this one, you're actually looking at a $60, maybe even $70 or $80 card, depending upon what the bids go to. You can see here, there's actually a crazy one that went for $126, which is a little bit too high, but I would say around $70 is where this one should be. So this card almost has a 10x multiplier if you are able to get a PSA 10. Same thing goes for the Venusaur. As you can see at the bottom, that one sold for $67 at auction, so around $70 as well for the Venusaur, which is around a $5 card. So these you just kind of have to be careful with the texture, make sure it's got some good centering, check out the back, but these are a great card to grade. Alright, so now we're going to speculate on some upcoming cards. So this Tyranitar art rare currently exists in the Japanese set Clayburst. Obviously, Tyranitar is a super fan favorite Pokemon and is an art rare which tend to be pretty easy to grade. Currently, this card in Japan is going for around 580 yen, so you can probably get this card somewhere around $4 to $6. So particularly if you're looking to flip cards, you want to look at some newer cards that don't have anything else out of the market yet. If you're first to market on a particular card, you tend to get a little bit more of a premium. So as of now, there are no PSA or CGC cards of this particular card, and that goes for any of the Snow Hazard or Clayburst cards and for newer Japanese sets that come out. I know for me, I've already bought a bunch of copies of this card to grade, and this is where you want to keep in mind turnaround time. So if you're looking to be first to market on a particular card, CGC tends to be the fastest in turnaround time, as we mentioned earlier. So even though sometimes they are a little bit tougher to grade, being first to market on a card like this is a big plus. Well, that's it for today's video. I appreciate you watching all the way into the end. If you enjoy this type of content, make sure to like and subscribe. And with that, we'll see you next time.